What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the J.O.C. and you already know what time it is, man. It's time to cover all of the news that we got this week about college football 25. This was the first week where we received news on multiple days, and to kick the week off, they gave us the top 10 toughest places to play. Now, I know there have been a lot of discussion about who should have been number one, who shouldn't have been in the top 10, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that as this list is subject to change throughout the year as teams lose a lot of games at home and some other teams win a lot of games. But I want you guys in the comment section to tell me who you think should have been in the top 10 or the top 25. And the day after that, they blessed us with the sights and sounds deep dive. Now, this is where I want to spend a bulk of my time, but we're going to revisit that as soon as I give you guys the rundown on what else happened this week. And the following day after that, we got the top offenses and top defenses, which had a few people upset as well, which college football tends to do in a lot of categories. A lot of fans feel like their team should be placed higher than other teams, which gives college football its unique rivalries. And last, we were blessed with the overall team rankings, which is basically the top 25 polls. And I wouldn't get too hung up on this, as we know the number one team in the nation in the preseason most likely will not end up as the top team at season end. Now, you guys let me know in the comment section if your favorite team was selected in the top 10 or top 25 of any of those categories. And if your team wasn't, I want to hear your argument as why they should have been in it. All right, so now let's move on to what I came here to talk about. The sights and sound deep dive. I want to give you guys a little personal insight, sort of like I was doing in the previous videos, about how I feel about the new features and things that they presented to us in this deep dive. And first off, we're going to jump into the mascots. Now, as we know, mascots play a huge role in college sports all across the nation. Now, EA mentioned that they included 50 mascots this year, and that's a combination of 40 team mascots and 10 real animals. As you guys know, some schools use real animals as their mascots, which I think is pretty cool, and other teams who use mascots that are manned by humans. In the previous versions of this game, we had mascots. I'm not sure how many total, but it seemed like every team was well represented, especially your major universities. And moving on to the traditions that they added in the game, as you guys know, the inclusion of turnover celebrations, the turnover chain in Miami. You also have some teams with championship belts to represent a turnover, and you have some teams having a chair, which represents a throne. And with this being one of the newest found traditions in college football, it was a no-brainer that they include this. Also, the sights and sounds deep dive covered the detailed stadium. For some of the schools that were geographically close to where they were developing this game, they actually went to those universities and captured every aspect of their football stadium, from the turf to the bleachers. And for those universities that they couldn't go to in person, they use a specialized stadium creation toolkit to help develop all teams. Now, this is the same stadium toolkit I was referencing to in the last video, which I gave my perspective on the gameplay deep dive, and I was hoping that this will be available for us in Team Builder. Now, when we're talking about capturing the smallest details of a stadium, we can't forget about game day, and they covered the audio and crowd features that they added, as they said that they teamed up with ESPN, who helped them get real life audio from various stadiums. And one of the games that they mentioned was a 2022 game which featured Alabama and LSU, which was a crazy overtime game. Now, along with the crowd noise, they added another feature, which is new to me, and that is crowd themes. Now, they implemented 170 patterns like Tennessee's checkerboard and Boise State's triple stripe, along with blackout games, along with whiteout games. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe they said that we will only have one crowd theme game in Dynasty mode, because it will maintain its uniqueness throughout Dynasty mode. If there's only one game, everybody will be looking forward to playing that game where their team is either doing the checkerboard pattern or the triple stripe pattern, or else a whiteout, instead of it being every game or every other game, which will oversaturate the crowd theme. And I don't think universities do this too often throughout the season, just on special occasions. Now, another feature they said they added, which was the dynamic attendance feature. Now, to some folk, this may be a new feature, but to myself, it is not. Recently, I've been playing NCAA 2006 over and over and over and over for the last few weeks, getting prepared for college football 25, and this was a feature that was in this game, where if your team was succeeding, your stadium would be packed, and if your team was failing, your stadium would be near empty. Now, let me give you an example. On NCAA Football 06, if you started a dynasty with a team, let's say for instance an FCS team, if you took one of them and import them into dynasty mode, starting off, your team will be not great at all and not recognized. So the stadiums would be empty all the way up until you're able to achieve success, and the stadium will slowly grow, and eventually you will have a sellout game every game if your team is succeeding on that level. Now, to stay on the topic of game atmosphere, we're going to talk about the crowd section layouts and the high energy student sections. So what they said is that they accurately place the band, the visitors, and the students in proper sections. This has always been a thing in NCAA football, is that your band was placed in one location. The visitors had their location, and the only thing that was missing was the student section. On the older version, it seemed like the student section was everywhere because the whole stadium was rocking. And with the student section being a little more amped than the other sections, I think that's going to add a much needed layer to this game, bro. I can't wait to see the student section going crazy, as the rest of the stadium is still rocking, but they ain't rocking like the student section. You know, they be out there wild. Also, the crowd will have props, like the Michigan and Tennessee fans will have pom-poms, the South Carolina Gamecocks and the Pittsburgh Panthers fans will have towels, and Mizzou will have those tiger tails. And with all of this craziness going on while you're trying to control the game on the road, it's going to create a wild experience. Now, another thing they talked about was hand signals and chants. Now, chants have always been something in college sports, especially in the video game world. If you play college basketball games like College Hoops 2K8, NCAA March Madness, or NCAA basketball, whatever you want to call it, you remember cutting that thing on and hearing that crowd going crazy. I think NCAA Basketball 10 had the best crowd chant audio of any college sports game. While you're playing that game, you can hear the crowd going crazy, screaming out all types of stuff. And it was such a distraction if you was a team on the road. So they added over 220 team specified hand signals and crowd chants. But the only hand signal that's not in the game is the horns down gesture. Now, I don't think there's another team that has a more popular disrespectful hand signal than the Texas Longhorns. So it wouldn't be fair for those guys to see everyone they play throwing the horns down. That'll be a little too tough, man. So now we're going to talk about the broadcast and presentation. They introduced 2 commentary teams to us, and this is the first college football video game to have multiple commentary squads. Now, the most popular squad features Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. And this team will cover all of the important games, like if your team is selected for game of the week, and if you make it to the conference championship game, as well as the college football playoffs. Also, they will cover those same games in your Road to Glory seasons as well. And the other team, which features Reese Davis, Jesse Palmer, and David Pollock, will cover all of the other games. Now, I love that they have 2 commentary teams, which was first introduced to us in NCAA Basketball 10, but it was a lot deeper than this, as they had the ESPN broadcast, Scorebug and all, with the commentary team that covered those games, as well as the CBS squad that covered the NCAA basketball tournament. Now, we could have got like an ESPN Scorebug for the smaller games, and maybe a ABC Scorebug for those big games. That would have been huge. And another issue I have with this is that I wish we could go back to non-televised games. Do you guys remember during the PS2 and Xbox versions where you had some games that were not on TV? They kept track of televised games and non-televised games. They also tracked the televised games by letting you know which games were regionally televised and which games were nationally televised. Now, if you're into Play Now games, you will have a choice between the two commentary teams. Now, another favorite feature of mine is returning, and that's studio updates. They knew how much we love studio updates. Studio updates came along in the Xbox 360 versions of this game, where you will be playing and someone score a touchdown, maybe yourself, maybe your opposition, and they will cut to what is going on around the country, giving you a little insight on your conference rivals, maybe some of the top teams. And there was nothing better than scoring a touchdown and then hearing a top team was upset by a lesser school. Now, in NCAA Football 14, I felt like we didn't get enough studio updates. Or maybe I'm just greedy. You guys let me know, how do you feel about it? I would like to see a studio update at least once a quarter, just to track what's going on around the country. Now, studio updates will be in online dynasties as well, which wasn't in the old NCAAs. And I think that's cool that they're able to put that in now. They won't be able to give us halftime scores of those games. They will only be able to give us the finished results, which I think is cool, because while you're playing your game and your buddies done play theirs, you can actually see, oh, he already lost, especially if you guys playing at the same time. Oh, that'll be lit. And last but not least, I wanted to cover the PIP play call screens. This is a very important piece to me because play call screens has never been a place that you wanted to stay for a long period of time, especially with that play clock ticking. So what they said is that once the play finished, the game screen will shrink into the top left corner, and it will continue to show replays, crowd shots, all that good stuff. And while you're navigating your playbook, they will share game stats, season stats, career stats, and stats versus your last week opponent. That's enough for me right there. If I can look at my play call screen and look over and see all of these stats, it will help with game planning and strategizing. And they're also going to give us rankings of top players across the nation when it comes to stat categories. And we can't forget about the wear and tear factor. It's going to be there as well to give us a little insight on who's banged up and who's not. And they also said that they had over 400 panels. So there's a slim chance, I mean a very slim chance, that you will see the same panel in the same game, or maybe in multiple games. That's crazy. Now that's what I call detail, and that will keep the game fresh and new, even if you're in year 15. Now, with all that great presentation news, the best is still yet to come, and you know what that is. Dynasty Deep Dive is scheduled to drop this Tuesday on July the 2nd at 10:55 Eastern Standard Time. And if my gameplay deep dive was 20 minutes off of nearly 5 minutes of video, oh man, we might be looking at a 30 plus or 40 plus minute video from me. But I always try to keep it short and sweet for you guys, as short and sweet as I can, but I don't like to leave out details for some reason, because I feel like each detail matters. In Dynasty mode, it's detail driven. And that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you got any questions, make sure to leave them right there in the comment section, and I try to answer you guys as quick as I can. And I know I got some great people out there in the comment section as well that answer a lot of these questions for you guys. And if you're interested in hearing more about college football 25 or learning more about HBCU athletes, just subscribe to the channel. And as well, before you leave, hit that like button, man. And it's your boy Chuck, and I'm out of here. Peace.